down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
What's going on, Savvy investors? You tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show, Savvy Podcast, whatever you want to do, you tuned in. So you're already one step ahead because today we got so much to be thankful for. And I'm thankful for you for listening in. I'm thankful for you for texting and Facebook messaging and posting. And it's exciting time in some regard where you got to just keep pushing forward. You know, this pandemic, COVID, it's serious stuff. Another friend of mine, through a friend, someone passed. And, you know, they were like, I saw him on Monday. And then they died last night, which was Wednesday. Today's Thanksgiving 2020, November 26th. And, you know, when you really think about it, you know, and I thought to myself, I was like, man, am I joking about this, you know, too lightly? I mean, what if your wife died? And so, you know, we need to take it serious. You know, it's difficult wearing a mask, I guess, in some regard. And most of the time I just comply, you know. I may not agree with it or disagree, but the most important thing that it is serious, that there are people that are dying, and we need to be sensitive to that. And then the folks that are in your circle that have been affected by it, just be empathetic to them, love them, encourage them. And it's just not easy. Even one of my good friends has it, and they can't taste or smell. And I'm like, man, you know, how long does that last? And, you know, have light headaches. And man, these are just sad things that you have to deal with in life. So I just want to encourage you to just fight through and have enough respect and love and empathy for somebody else that may be going through this. Well, anyway, enough of that. I just wanted to say thank you. And I had this weird idea to do a podcast called Defining Moments in Your Life. And so I'm about to drop off. And now these are straight random, not in order. And I was like, man, maybe I should go back and rewrite this in chronological order so it just makes sense. But stuff was just flowing to me. And I was like, man, I mean, after I did 2 or 3 defining moments, I was like, wow, they're just pouring out of my life. So what I've been doing during this week of Thanksgiving is just being thankful, marinating on where I came from, marinating on where I'm going, writing my goals down. And then I was just thinking of key points in my life that were defining moments. And so I think that we all should, and I hope that my goal, I was like, man, when people hear these defining moments, are they like, wow, good for you, VanCauwenbergh. That's wacky whack. And I haven't had that opportunity. Now, I'll probably break down each of these defining moments and kind of how they got set up. And then, you know, hopefully you can set these up, not these exact ones, these defining moments, but you can start setting things up for you. So, you know, what's so weird is that I like this comedian called Trey Kennedy. And he's kind of funny. At first I didn't like him because he does a lot of drag stuff. But then I'm just so enamored by this guy that he has the ability to think like someone else and then speak about it and then perform about it. And, you know, so there's another comedian that I like, Ted Cunningham out of Missouri. This dude's off the chain funny. And he, you know, teaches how to stand up comedian. And he talks about, it's the setup, you know, how you set up the joke, right? So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, why can't we set up our own life? It's the setup. How do you get to this point? All of a sudden, how can you close a 280 apartment building, fund it, blah, blah? It's the setup. It's the process. And then there's some defining moments, I think, during that whole process. So here's some massive, random defining moments. I'm going to add some details in there. Again, if I've missed something or you want to know more about one of these defining moments, that's great. I even was motivated to do this podcast. I was like, man, I could write a book on defining moments. And then I was just writing and they were just pouring out of me. And so I hope and pray that this is something that will motivate you, encourage you, think about the defining moments in your world and go thank that person or that individual that was a part of your defining moment? So let's break one off. Well, my first defining moment, now there's a lot of them, but I actually pushed this one to the top. Man, when someone gave me Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's a defining moment. Now, what's the setup? Well, the setup is that there was a young kid. He was 18 years old. He was in a band. At this time, I was in the rock and roll business. I was a band manager, tour manager, promoter, merchandising, you name it. Man, I was all over the music industry at this time. So the setup is I was just serving these kids, this young punk band, and their dad was an entrepreneur in Iowa, gave their son Rich Dad, Poor Dad at 18, and then those kids took the advice of Rich Dad, Poor Dad and bought a duplex and then went on tour, and I was their road manager. Oh, not the road manager. At that time, I was their band manager. And check this out. One day, they handed me a copy, $13 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it's changed my life forever, financially free, because of a defining moment. Now, the ultimate defining moment was that I was depressed, fat, and I haven't read a book since high school, and I took the decision, I made the opportunity to read the book. The defining moment. So there's a defining moment in your world where someone gave you an opportunity. Somebody called you and said, let's go to lunch. That's another defining moment. We're going to get into those. And you have to act on those defining moments. So here's one that's just straight Ricky today. Like, this happened to me on Wednesday, which would be yesterday. This is a defining moment that just happened so crazy. So let me break it off to you. So on Monday, I had to wire a larger sum of money for an acquisition in Houston that we just purchased, a 280 apartment building. Man, that's another defining moment. So I'm wiring almost, and to be honest with you, I had zero money left in my bank account. I mean, I'm talking maybe just enough to survive. And because I sent the money, because we were closing, and that was the last one. But at the same time, I was refinancing another apartment building that was a very large refi, $900,000 refi, that's going to give me $400,000 in cash, which I rolled over into this other apartment building. Okay. Now, here's the deal. I had to close this deal. I had to wire this money over. I'm broke. And then on Monday, there was an email from the refi bank. Hey, Stephen, where do you want to close this refi? And so I sent an email. I said, hey, I close at this place. So that banker sent an email to that closer, and then that closer says, hey, we don't do commercial deals here. And they just randomly forward my email to some closing department in some other address. And I'm like, okay, whoa. I need to close the refinance as soon as possible to pay back the money that I just liquidated everything to buy this apartment. And then and on top of that, I did this refi. That money was allocated to another acquisition that I have going on in another week. So let's just be clear here. So there's three moving parts. 1, acquisition in apartment building in Houston. 2, refinance of an apartment building here in Oklahoma City. And 3, acquiring a commercial property in Oklahoma. So I got 3 transactions that need to go down, and they have to kind of work together. So on Monday, I normally am just laid back, and I just kind of let the dominoes fall. And as I get older, and as I get more intentional, I do no longer do that. So on Monday, when I got the email and she forwarded it, asked me the question, I'm like, okay, great. We're going to close, hopefully by Thanksgiving or on Monday so that I can fund the commercial acquisition and I can fund in Houston. Well, that didn't go down. They started forwarding my email around. And I was like, on the next day, I was like, man, I'm about to get jammed up because something could be delayed and I could have a problem and all this stuff could bust in my face. And so then I was like, I almost couldn't even sleep on Tuesday, which is rare for me. But on Tuesday, I was just thinking, so then I was thinking creatively. And this is what's great about real estate. I was like, okay, who could I call to borrow the money? So yeah, I did. I actually borrowed some money from a friend that just say, listen, here's the deal. I got these things in a pipeline. They're like, no problem, VanCauwenbergh. We'll front you the couple $100,000. We'll keep you rolling. So that's kind of how I got that deal closed. But then I have the commercial property that they just sent me the HUD on Monday too. So now I have to come up with this acquisition on Monday, and then I have to refi as soon as possible to pay for this acquisition. So then now this is the defining moment. Do not put your life into someone else's hands. So these people, they took it upon themselves thinking that they're going to help me. But why would I allow that to happen? Because this could all foil on me. So what I did was I called the commercial closer that was handling the acquisition for the commercial property. And I said, can you do a refi, and how fast? And by then the other title company already pulled the abstract. So now I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers. But you have to ruffle feathers. This is the defining moment. I'm not going to lay down and just let things just fall into place like I used to. The defining moment was I had to stand up, and I'm going to make this deal happen at all cost. And yeah, I may rub people the wrong way because I pulled the title work from this one place that really didn't even call me. And that's what really frustrated me. If they would have called me and said, hey, Mr. VanCauwenbergh, yeah, we don't do, these large refis here. We got to go here. Fine, but I needed to know exactly when this will close. When I called the commercial closer, they gave me the ETA like we can get it done today or tomorrow because you're just refining. And that's exactly why I sent it to that first place. But see, I had to take a stand. That was a defining moment. And here's the great thing. When I took that defining moment, I built a relationship with the new closer. And that's my new goal for 2021 is like, I've got to get out of my comfort zone. Why not build a relationship with where I'm trying to go to? Where am I going? I'm going into commercial, heavy, hard and heavy. And the residential people are not helping me. I'm not getting any deals from residential people, wholesalers, realtors. They're all in their own world doing their own thing. VanCauwenberghs, they don't even care about me. So I'm like, I have to create my own circle now in the commercial world. And this is the defining moment. I believe this is the defining moment in my life where I was like, okay, I'm done playing with the little kids. It's time for the big boy club. Yeah, it's painful. And I'm leaving all my insecurities and securities behind. And I'm going to step up. It worked out. So the closer was baller. Just emailed me back. Hey, we already got it back. We already talked to the blank. We got it back. And then as soon as that all done, within a few hours. So I delayed myself a day of just dumbness, marinating on this dumb thing. And then the closer got it done, which was even more interesting. So then the original residential closer got a little peeved. Why did you pull the title from us? We want to know. And I was like, I wrote the most amazing, nice letter to them and explaining it just the way I did. You just took it upon yourself to send this thing. I didn't know. I wasn't in the loop. This was a very important transaction. I needed to get this done. I needed to be completely privy to everything. And no big deal. We'll work it out again. So that, I believe, was a defining moment. These defining moments are very interesting. So I'm very interesting to myself because I have at least 10 or 15 defining moments on here. We've been breaking it off for 13 minutes. And I'm like, how long is this going to go? I don't even know if you're going to like these defining moments. If you like these defining moments, ladies and gents, you've got to tell me because, I don't know if this is important. I don't even know if this helps you. Am I talking about myself? My goal in life is to assist you and serve you. How is that possible if I'm talking about myself? All right, so here is another defining moment. Here's another defining moment. And I hopefully that you could see some great positivity in this one. I hope that you can adopt this and apply it in your own world and grow from this one. So actually, I'm still speaking of that deal that I'm working on. I'm refinancing an apartment building at $900,000. Okay, and I bought this property 11 years ago for $140,000. Yes, it sounds glamorous, but it wasn't. It was a shell poured my heart and soul in this thing, wanted to give up several times. If you've read my book, The Savvy Landlord, it's called The 14-Eyed Monster. You should read the book. It's legit. I wrote it for real. I wrote the book because I thought Rich Dad Poor Dad was phenomenal, but it didn't tell you exactly how to do stuff. And in my book, I tell you every address, every pain that I went through, and how I got here. But in that book, I wrote about the 14th-eyed monster. So I've remodeled it twice, and I knew this opportunity in Houston would come up, that I'd be buying this property. I needed the cash, so I went ahead and refinanced this deal. And, of course, everyone refinance, everybody's refinancing, da-da-da-da-da. So I pull the refinance. I get a referral from a friend, and I've worked with this bank. I think I have about $1 million already with this bank. And so I'm going along, and then they quote me 4.5. I think I ask for 25-year AM, which is just epic, but I asked for the moon, man. You got to go for the moon. And so I asked all this stuff, and the guy was like, yeah. And I think he said 80% ARV. I was like, oh, okay. And then he even asked me very specifically, is this a cash out? I said, absolutely. I'm going to roll this money into another real estate investment. This individual was like, yep, that sounds good. We can do it. So they do the work, do the appraisal, blah, blah, blah. About a month before the appraisal, dude sends me a confirmation letter, which I can't remember the terminology because it's still early for me, but I hadn't write out this podcast in depth. But it's a term sheet. I think that's the right term. And he emails me this term sheet, and it's way to F off. Like it's like 5.25, 5.5, 70% ARV, and like it's 15-year AM. I'm like, what the? Not even one of the things that we discussed, even I think I even through email, was not even in existence in this. I didn't even sign this terms letter. I was like, you lost your mind. And I was like, now, I need this refinance. I've already purchased this property in Houston. I've got to close. I got to send this money. I'm up against the wall. And I know you as a real estate investor, you have been there, done that, and this has happened to you, where you feel like you're at the mercy of the bank. Now, listen, man, I'm not against banks, but I'm just saying the banks do have this kind of weird, funky swagger that they just own the world, okay? But they really do, because they kind of control the real estate market in some form or fashion. Welcome to the Fed. If you know, the Fed loans money to the bank borrows money, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, now I'm going to give them some blowback, but I had no idea how to handle this blowback. So here's a defining moment for you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world. I call a really large real estate investor in Oklahoma City that I know that uses that bank. And I was like, bro, is this normal? I'm going to be straight up with you. This is exactly what happened. This is my correspondence. These are my emails. I have all this in writing. He was like, blank effing no. Blank effing no. He's like, no way. He's like, you tell that dude, blank, you go back and basically go over the dude's head. And I was like, oh, here we go. I really don't want to go over somebody's head. I'm like, that is not the way. I'm old school, and I try to work things out with people. But, going over somebody's head, I get a little uncomfortable unless it's something dramatic or something just I got to break something off. But what was the amazing defining moment was this friend of mine took his time and draft this phenomenal email. And he wrote this email about Mr. VanCauwenbergh, about the relationship that him and I have and what I have implemented in his life and the success that I have had in real estate. Now, I was like, I didn't ask for that, and he did that. Well, man, let me tell you something. The world moved within minutes. By the next day, I got a phone call, about 6 phone calls. Somebody on some board of director called me and apologized, and said, hey, we're going to make it right. Whatever we said, whatever the individual said, whatever you agreed upon, we're going to do it. So we're going to give you a 25 amp. We're going to give you 4.5, and we're going to do 80%. I said, well, blah, blah, blah. And so that was a conversation. Then, right after that, she said this. She said, we're going to lower your rate as well for the portfolio that you already have with us. I said, excuse me? She said, yes. I see that your rate's 6%. we're going to give it to you at 5. And I was like, wow. Okay. Thank you very much. And then I hung up. Didn't think anything of it, right? I'm like, this is too good to be true. Well, the interesting thing, I'm going through this refinance. You just heard about it just a minute ago, and it's about to close any minute. And I get another DocuSign in my email box that was a rate change addendum. And I signed it, and I was like, the defining moment is someone sent an email for me that saves me $500 a month in cash flow. The loan that I have with these people is $1 million. So if you look it up in your financial calculator, $1 million at 6% interest, and then $1 million at 5% interest saves me $6,000 a year. One email was a defining moment for me. And so, listen, let me do the setup on this. Now, this is a relationship that I have built with this individual for some time. And I was trying to think about when I was writing this podcast, I was like, man, this is interesting. I remember when I first met this person, I did not connect with this person. And at the time, I probably had a low self-esteem, or I was probably arrogant or selfish. And I met this individual through a real estate club. And, we were just on 2 different planets at that time. But the crazy thing is, the defining moment is that through some perseverance and building a relationship and looking at the greater good, I have found a lifelong friend that was willing to write an email without even me asking. That's a defining moment. Are you that person for someone else? Can you create a defining moment for someone else? And I want you to reflect today, this weekend, what are your defining moments? And I think you need to cherish them. I think you need to write them down and just be thankful that you have a defining moment. If you're this crusty, frustrated person that you have no defining moments, you do, because someone introduced you to this podcast, which I believe is a defining moment for a lot of people. And I'm honored to be your host. I'm honored to be a leader for you. I'm honored to be a coach for you. I'm honored to be whatever you need me to be so you can reach and do whatever you need to be doing or wanting to do, or the dreams that you have to be fulfilled. And that's what Thanksgiving is about. We need to be thankful. I'm thankful that I even have the opportunity, that I can afford to do this, and I have the time. I'm thankful. I'm thankful for all the wonderful friends that I have met through this whole process of real estate investing. And I ultimately am so thankful for all the encouragement, the text messages and the love, the gifts, everything. It just means the world to me and my family, and it propels us. And just so you know, the ultimate goal is for you to know Jesus as your Savior. That's just what it is. This is why I function. This is why I live. And this is what I'm going to keep doing for until I die. Hopefully that I live it out for you. Hopefully I represent Jesus to the fullest. Am I perfect? No. Do I sin? All the time. And sometimes I even curse. But the reality is, my heart is for you to know him. And if you don't know him, please ask me. I would love to share him with you. He's Big Jesus. He's all things mighty. And we have a lot to be thankful for him. And of course, for the holiday season, for Christmas, Happy Advent, Merry Christmas, or whatever belief that you have, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever. Enjoy this time and go out and buy assets.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook, and always be buying assets.